Tomb Raider. That's right, Tomb Raider 1. This game was made in 1996 and introduced us to our favorite heroine, Lara Croft. Lara Croft is hanging out when she's approached by this American man named Larson, and he's actually only just a representative from NATLA and NATLA Technologies. NATLA is very interested in investment of artifacts, and Lara Croft, for the sake of adventure alone, is willing to be hired by this NATLA to go and find this artifact called the Scion. Yeah, so you go on to Peru to discover 1/3 of the piece of Scion. That's right, you can't just find all of it. You have to go into chunks. Well, Larson then attacks you, and you beat him up because you're Lara Croft, and you question him and finding out that there's a guy named Pierre going for the next 2 pieces of Scion. You then follow him to Greece and even in Egypt, and then you take those pieces of Scion, and you have it. You've done it. And then, of course, Nala comes around with a bunch of Goonies and takes that artifact of the Scion from you. Which then Lara Croft, being Lara Croft, doesn't give up and hides on a boat to the city of Atlantis, where you then must recover this artifact Scion in order to save the day. It's just a normal day for Lara, of course, because we all love her and we know exactly what she's capable of. Only being a year after Dark Forces, Tomb Raider marks a revolutionary step into the 3D world, along with games like Mario 64. The textures and polygons for their days were incredibly immersive as you explored vast environments of the world such as Peru, Greece, and even Egypt. I have to say, personally for me, my favorite kind of genre in games is third-person action games, and that's what this Tomb Raider game is. Yes, the worlds were very huge, and you would find yourself not only solving puzzles to get through the level, but there would be plenty of secrets to uncover. And if you were lucky enough, you could find a new weapon. Finding that weapon would be very exciting, as each weapon had its own unique abilities and felt different every time you shot it. Yes, some were more powerful than others, some of them just shot differently than others, and that's what made it so great. When you found this weapon, you would really relish the moment, because each enemy that you would take head-on, you could take head-on in your own way. As you progress through the game, you would find that each level would have its own unique puzzle, and it was not repetitive at all, which was perfect. You would find yourself in an entire level where you couldn't access certain areas unless you moved up and down the water levels, or even though you needed artifacts to get through a door, you would run around and try to get each artifact even if they were in a central location in order to accomplish your goal, and that made for interesting puzzles and gameplay. Along with that, each time you would complete a level, it would give you a list of your secrets and how many you found, and it really added this sense of exploration throughout the entire game. You would end a level saying, oh, I wonder how many secrets I got, and if you didn't find one, it gives you this little feeling of, oh, I need to go back and play that level because I need to find another secret. Not to mention, finding a secret in itself was very rewarding because it always had some sort of goodie for you to pick up. However, this was a classic Tomb Raider game where you would find one switch to you think end the puzzle, but it would actually just introduce you to another switch that you would have to find, and it caused a lot of backtracking, which that part wasn't the greatest. Although sometimes it was very needed and it was okay, a lot of the times you would just find a switch to open up another switch. Throughout each level, there was also many different kinds of traps, such as a pitfall that led to spikes, or being chased after a boulder like Indiana Jones. Yes, each trap brought its own little interest where you would have to see how you would get across that lava pit, or how would you avoid those spike doors closing in and crushing you. Yes, it brought a genuine challenge and fear into your heart as you went and explored throughout the entire level, and it brought a good sense of engaging danger to the game. Unfortunately, there was something about Tomb Raider that I absolutely hated. And I don't want to just blame my incredibly bad jumping skills upon it, but the fact was the controls were terrible for me. They did not have a joystick use at all. You would be like driving a car where you would push one angle and you would spin in place, or you would have to back up, and it made for terrible, terrible movement from Lara. However, the jumping was no better, because you wouldn't just jump when you push the jump button, and therefore you didn't feel like Lara was reacting to your controls. In fact, you would have to wait for the foot to plant firmly on the ground in order to move and jump, which is kind of realistic, but not what I want as a gamer. However, I do want to make a point that the developers did an excellent job of finding ways around this. You could walk up straight to an edge and do one jump back, and you would be the perfect paces for a jump, and without that, I do not think I would have ever made it through this game. You'd also had moments where you could grab onto things, and that was so thankful when you did, because you just didn't want to fall because you knew you were going to. The very last maybe unfortunate thing was that when you were walking around the level, you would see glitches through different walls, and you could see items and hidden areas and stuff that you would maybe need to go to, or maybe was a secret. It was helpful in a way, and I enjoyed it because I knew exactly what I had to do next in certain areas. But at the same time, I didn't really need to know that there was a med pack up there. What if that was a secret I could find later? And then there was some infamous glitch on the PlayStation version, however I played on Steam, where you would just see through this entire wall and there was a slope downwards. Nothing was terrible like that on Steam, but there was some work that needed to be done. Overall, I want to say I enjoyed this game. I enjoyed the puzzles, I enjoyed the environment, and I enjoyed solving certain things and even exploring and finding secrets. And that's what I think makes up Tomb Raider. However, I think people are fond of the way Lara controlled, but I certainly wasn't, and it was very frustrating for me. And as I played through the game and couldn't make a jump 1,000 different times, I would find myself just be ready to quit. And instead of having that sense of accomplishment as I completed the level, I'd almost have a sense of relief. And that was very sad, because I wanted to love the game so much. I also had a hard time understanding the story. I was confused a little bit each cutscene I watched because I didn't know the characters I was watching. Of course, I eventually figured it out, as there was characters being introduced all the time, and it wasn't a terribly confusing story, I just didn't follow it personally all too well. But after concluding and finishing the game, I thought the story was pretty decent. My feelings going into the next Tomb Raiders is that I have a feeling they'll play the same, very similar at least, but I hope they improve on certain aspects of the game. I think the game had a lot of potential that didn't meet me coming at it 20 years later instead of at its time. I really hope going into the future we can get better controls for the jumping and maybe even some better movement than the car movement. But overall, I'm going to give this a rating for me as a 6.5. I enjoyed the game. I wanted to enjoy it more though. I thought there was a lot of potential there, but I just kept getting too frustrated. And so I'm hopeful for the future games I will not totally feel that way. As a critic rating, I want to give it an 8.5 because for its time it was revolutionary. This was like one of the first 3D games, and many people are very fond of that game and the way it controls. It's just not me. But I do want to say thank you to this game, because we all know it introduced to us Lara Croft, and I'm excited to get to know her a little bit more.
What's a man got to do to get that kind of attention from you?
It's hard to say exactly, but you seem to be doing fine.
Well, great.
Thank you to anyone who watches this or even enjoys it. This is Z Nightwalker with my review of Tomb Raider. I will see you next time.